Shadow Mewtwo is coming to Shadow Raids this weekend in Pokemon Go, and spoiler alert, it looks like it's going to be a pretty tough one to beat. In this video, I'm going to talk about all the information we currently have about Shadow Raids, what this means for Shadow Mewtwo raids, and I'm going to be talking about the best ways you can prepare for Shadow Mewtwo raids if you're going to be attempting them. Shadow Mewtwo will be in raids from Saturday, May 27th at 10 AM till Sunday, May 28th at 8 PM local time. Shadow Raids have been out for a few days at this point, and we know quite a bit about them, although we don't know everything yet. A lot of it is still a bit of speculation. But for starters, the Tier 1 raids seem to not be a problem at all. These seem to be the same as regular 1-star raids, except you get Shadow Pokemon from them. Shouldn't have any issues with them, and they should be able to be done solo, which is great because if you've got no one to raid with, like a lot of people don't, you'll be able to get these ones done no problem. And remember, there's no remote raiding for Shadow Raids, so you can't remote into other people's raids and you can't invite other people. So these ones are good because you don't need any help. You should be able to get them done okay. When it comes to 3-star raids, however, there is a large difficulty spike from Tier 1 raids. Tier 3 and 5 Shadow Raids, if you don't already know, the raid boss will become enraged when its HP falls to around 60%. This enraged buff is actually very significant because it increases the attack of the raid boss by 80% and increases its defense by 200%. So when the raid boss becomes enraged, you are actually going to start to have quite a bad time. The defense buff in particular will make the Pokemon very bulky, and this will make it very difficult to beat the raid in time. If you push through the fight and manage to get the boss down to 12.5%, the buff automatically goes away, it will become subdued, it will no longer be enraged, and you'll be able to then defeat the raid a lot quicker. There is, however, a way to subdue the raid boss before it hits the 12.5% threshold, and to do this you need to give the raid boss a certain amount of Purified gems. To make 1 Purified gem you need 4 Shadow Shards. You can get these Shadow Shards from pretty much any Team Go Rocket member. From Grunts you'll get 1 Shadow Shard, from Leaders you'll get 3, and from Giovanni you'll get 4. You can also obtain a varying amount of Shadow Shards from Shadow Raids themselves by completing them. Once you get 4 Shadow Shards, they'll automatically combine into a Purified gem, and you can carry up to 10 Purified gems at a time. From what I've seen so far, it takes 8 Purified gems to subdue a Tier 3 raid boss before it hits the 12.5% HP threshold. This hasn't been confirmed, but this seems to be what the community are experiencing as a whole. So with all this said, are Tier 3 raids actually soloable, or are you going to need other people to do them? Well, they are soloable, but you would need the best counters at level 40 or above if you're not using any Purified gems. Note that if the amount of Purified gems to subdue the boss is actually 8, you won't be able to subdue it completely by yourself because you can only use 5 Purified gems per trainer. This means you would need a second person to be able to completely subdue the Pokemon. Other than using the amount of Purified gems to subdue the raid boss, we don't actually know what, say, 1 or 2 Purified gems will do to the raid boss. Hopefully that'll be lowering the attack and the defense a little bit to help you with the raid. I would, however, recommend doing these Tier 3 raids with at least one other person if you don't have the best counters at high levels. It's also worth noting here that Pokemon caught from Shadow Raids will have a 666 IV floor, which is significantly lower than a regular raid which has 10-10-10 IV floor. This is probably because Shadow Pokemon can be purified, which adds +2 to all IVs, and I imagine Niantic don't want to be giving out hundos too easily. Not that it is easy to beat these raids anyway, because having this enraged buff does make the bosses a lot harder. Even with Tier 3, it's quite difficult to solo them now compared to with regular Tier 3 raids, which are significantly easier. And the Tier 5 raid boss, Shadow Mewtwo in this case, is going to be very difficult. Personally, I do think they should have at least an 8-8-8 IV floor, because then that would equate well to a 10-10-10 IV floor, because you can get that +2 from purification. This would bring it more in line with the regular raids and make it more fair, because these raids do seem to be harder to beat, so we should be able to at least get some decent IVs from them. From all this information, it does look like Shadow Mewtwo Enraged is going to be very difficult to beat, and it will most likely take more than 8 Purified gems to completely subdue the Pokemon. My guess is around 15 to 20 Purified gems to completely subdue Shadow Mewtwo, because Niantic are encouraging more people to play together, and the Purified gems do stack from everybody, so they probably want everybody to be using like a few Purified gems each to help each other out and subdue the raid boss. I would recommend getting a full set of 10 Purified gems ready in preparation for Shadow Mewtwo, and I would advise getting as many people as you possibly can for the raids, because it will most likely take more than 5 people to beat the raid unless you have the very best counters at max level. With that said, let's look at some counters for Shadow Mewtwo. So Shadow Mewtwo will be weak to Dark, Ghost and Bug types. The best Mega counters are Mega Gengar with Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, Mega Banette with the same moveset, Mega Houndoom with Snarl and Foul Play. You could also use Mega Absol with Snarl and Dark Pulse, Mega Gyarados with Bite and Crunch, and Mega Alakazam with Psycho Cut and Shadow Ball. If you're going to use Mega Gengar or Banette, I would be very careful because Mewtwo is a Psychic type, and both of its fast moves are Psychic types, Psycho Cut and Confusion, and it also has access to the Charge Attack Psychic. so they'll be super effective against the Ghost types, Gengar and Banette. And if using the Dark types, Mega Houndoom Absol or Gyarados, would be careful of the charge attack Focus Blast, and also make sure you're careful if you're using Mega Gyarados because Mewtwo can also have Thunderbolt as a charge attack. Also make sure whichever Mega you end up using shares the type of most of the Pokemon that other people in the raid will be using, so you get that extra damage boost. The best Shadow counters are Mewtwo itself with Psycho Cut and Shadow Ball, Tyranitar with Bite and Crunch, Weavile with Snarl and Foul Play, and Houndoom with the same moveset. The best legendary and mythical counters are Giratina Origin with Shadow Claw and Shadow Force, Darkrai with Snarl and Dark Pulse, both forms of Hooper with Astonish and Dark Pulse, and Yveltal with Snarl and Dark Pulse. The best budget counters for Shadow Mewtwo will be Hydreigon with Bite and Brutal Swing, Chandelure with Hex and Shadow Ball, Weavile with Snarl and Foul Play, Tyranitar with Bite Crunch, Zoroark with Snarl and Foul Play, Gengar with Shadow Claw and Shadow Ball, and Houndoom with Snarl and Foul Play. You could also use some bug types like Mega Pinsir or Vikavolt, but they aren't as good as the other alternatives I've already mentioned, but you can use them if you don't have any of the others. Again, make sure to keep an eye out on Mewtwo's movesets when picking your team because it has quite a varied move pool, and with the enraged buff especially, it's going to be dealing some big damage. And remember, Shadow Mewtwo can be shiny from these raids, which is pretty awesome, but I'm not sure what the shiny rates will be, but I'm hoping they're 1 in 20 like regular legendaries. 100% IVs will be 2387 and 2984 with a weather boost in windy weather. Hopefully this video has given you some insight on the difficulty of the Shadow raids and how best to prepare for them. Shadow Mewtwo looks like it's going to be one of the most difficult raid bosses we've been against so far, especially with that enraged buff increasing its attack and defense so much, so good luck out there. As always, like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next one. If you like this video, you should definitely check out some of my other videos and playlists by clicking on these ones on the screen right now.